Hi, this is Amelia Vogler, a specialist in energy medicine and your host in the Energy Magazine exclusive interview series. Today, our Energy Magazine friend and guest, Sharla Jacobs, is here. Sharla and her husband, Jesse Koren, have been called the #1 source for turning coaches and holistic practitioners into six-figure transformational leaders. And they're also the leading authorities in helping individuals attract new clients, all through their Thrive Academy. So welcome, Sharla.
Thank you so much, Amelia. I love being here. It's so fun because, uh, we've been writing for Energy Magazine, I think for about 2 years now. And, some of you might have read some of our articles about growing your practice, growing your business. And it's really fun to actually be here and, get to have a conversation as opposed to just writing. And Amelia, always a wonderful experience to have some time with you. It's been like 4 years now, something like that we've been working together.
Yeah. We just sort of ebb and flow through these new spaces and places. So it's great to have a different way of having some conversations with you about the pretty cool stuff that you've brought into our field. So I'm grateful also for the conversation. So I know, because I know you, that you've been the business building resource for Healing Touch program and also the Energy Medicine Professional Association. And I know all about your story, which is a really fascinating story. But for folks that don't know you yet, I was wondering if you might share just a little bit about how you got started and the funny turns life has taken you to get here.
Sure. Because isn't that funny? Sometimes we think we're on one path. And I actually imagine for, many of the Energy Magazine readers that you had a certain path you thought you were going on. And then the universe, life, God, whatever you want to say, said, no, you're going over here now. So we do always have those twists and turns. And I think especially for many of us that this might be a second career or even a third or fourth career, right? So for me, I graduated from my master's program in traditional Chinese medicine, got my acupuncture license, and I was simultaneously, getting my coaching certification. And I remember I was so excited when I finally got, this work. It was like a 3.5-year master's program and a really, really difficult exam to get my acupuncture license. My focus in that work was around the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, which you may be familiar with. I'll be talking about those a little bit later. And then, to integrate coaching into that. So it's really able to help people step into themselves, be empowered, be the best version of themselves. This is what I started out to do. And it took me, I think about 2 or 3 weeks to figure out that having an office and business cards and reaching out to a few people in my community was not enough to get me clients. So I knew nothing about sales and marketing. I remember I just would feel mortified at the idea of talking about myself or sharing my fees, and just nauseated and sick at the at the thought of it. And but I realized that if I didn't make a change, I was going to have to work a job that I didn't want to work. And I actually had a moment where I was standing in the health food store. I was in the produce aisle, and I was literally standing there with an organic avocado in one hand and a conventional avocado in the other. And the difference of $1 was such a big deal to me. I think I had $200 in my bank account. Rent was due, $600, $700 a few days later. And I didn't know where then, how rent was going to get paid. And I really sat there just like in this, it feels like a spiritual crisis. Like, wait, I know I'm meant to do this work. Like, I never felt more fulfilled when I was doing the work with coaching and 5-element acupuncture. But then I didn't have the tools to actually make it work as a business. And so it was so confusing and stressful. And there I was having to make that decision. And I remember in that moment just really thinking, like, I've got to find a way to make this work. I'm going to do whatever it takes to find a way to make my business work, because I can't imagine going back and doing a job that I wasn't aligned with. So I marched out of the grocery store. I ended up buying that organic avocado. And I found somebody that was a mentor to people who were new in business, a friend of mine. And I hired him, or I wanted to hire him to be my coach in this world of building my own practice. Now, at the time, he charged $600 a month. I told you I'm about to put groceries on credit cards and barely able to pay my bills. I did actually at the time, you all heard my husband, Jesse Koren, and we run this business together. We've been doing it for 16 years. This story is probably about 19 years ago. And I remember asking Jesse if I could borrow the money from him to work with this coach, and asking him if he believed in me enough to support me. Now, unfortunately, he said yes. And I did hire this coach. And my homework was actually to have 100 sales conversations a week. And you have to remember, this is before there was any social media. If I wanted to go meet somebody new, I had to go somewhere. So, I went to every networking event I could find here in Santa Cruz County. I followed up with people on the phone. We hardly texted in those days. And it was a really, really hard time. The first 30 days, I was falling pretty flat on my face. It wasn't going well. I was having a lot of conversations. But, as we know, like we do things in practice. And what happened for me during that time is I had this divine download. I had this idea that, okay, I'm pretty obsessed about the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, right? Like for me, that was my lens. That was my lens for how I looked at the world, how I looked at humans, how I worked with a client. So I asked myself, if the 5 elements are present everywhere, they must be present in a sales conversation. And how is that possible, right? And so then I started connecting the dots. And that was when this was, divine download, created this idea of the 5 elements of heart selling. That system has been responsible for our members, earning over $100 million collectively. Now, I know it's not all about money, but that does have a measure of like how many people they're helping, right? And that's really what this is all about, is how many people can you help? And the 5 elements of heart selling is really a system that is about how do you have a conversation with a potential client where everybody feels good about the conversation. It's like a holistic, energetic experience where people walk away feeling honored, respected, and if it's a good match, people say yes. And you don't have to feel like you're some sleazy car salesman or something like that, that you walk away feeling like you took great care of the person, whether they became a client or not. And oftentimes they will say yes, or they will refer. And, you don't have to worry about feeling yucky about the whole thing. So anyways, I had that download. Like after that, those next 60 days, I tripled my income. I went from barely getting by at $1,800 a month, barely being able to pay the bills, to having a $5,400 a month. And this is like 18, 19 years ago. So we can account for inflation. Long story short, Jesse followed suit soon after, quit a job after he got 5 new clients. We never looked back. We joined forces when people were starting to ask us how we were building our practices. We just started by teaching that little model. Since that time, our curriculum has grown. We've been teaching this for the last 16 years, from soup to nuts, of how do you build a thriving business, whether you want to have a one-on-one practice and you're just working with private clients, or you want to be working with groups. And we've got like soup to nuts. How do you do that? And that's our training. And, today specifically, I want to talk about bringing credibility to your energy medicine practice, because that's the article I talked on recently. It's a really important piece of it. But, this is one small piece of a greater system. So, and, super honored to be here and support to me, I truly believe, like, as an energy medicine practitioner, as an energy practitioner, that your work is so needed in this world. Amelia, before we started the recording, you and I were talking about just everything that's going on in the world and how stressed we are and how strained we are as a society. And right now, people need your work now more than ever. And so we have got to make sure that you are positioned so that they find you and they get that you are going to be able to help them.
Mm-hmm.
We can't help people if they don't say yes to working with us. So that's what this is all about.
Yeah, thank you, Sharla. Yeah, so, I was just thinking, oh, well, now she can have as much guacamole as she wants.
Yeah.
One avocado. She
right.
Guacamole. I guess we want that for everybody,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's wonderful to, we've created a very, very successful business. It's a 7-figure business. We have, we've had over 10,000 people come through our live events. Yeah. The greatest joy, however, is to watch the transformation in people's lives. And and to also be able to contribute to causes we believe in, and to really make a difference in that way. So while it's nice to be able to, buy as many avocados as many organic avocados as I want now, their greatest joy is really the fulfillment and the joy of knowing that when you get more clients, that the transformation really ripples out in the biggest way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sharla, before we move into the credibility conversation, I wanted to ask you about a phrase I hear you say often, just about attracting clients. And I was just wondering if you would share a little bit more about what that means to you and what your philosophy is, because I know you and you're not a car salesman. So this idea of attraction, there's something really interesting and beautiful about the way that your lens in that phrase.
Sure. Yeah. And I, speaking for me and Jesse and our team, when we talk about attracting clients, we're talking about attracting clients on two levels. One level is we have to do our inner work. We have to continue to clear out our own energy field so we can be heart open, present, to be a magnetic being where people are in our presence and they can feel that we've got something that they desire. I mean, people are suffering so badly. And I'm not saying I never suffer, and I'm not saying I never break down in tears or want to crawl under a rock, all of that stuff happens for me. And yet when it's okay, it is, I need to continue to do my work so I can be as clear, my energy can be as clean as possible. Now, I want to make a little disclaimer here. I'm not an energy medicine practitioner. So there are distinctions that you all have that I don't have. And yet I have my own way of talking about it. So for me, there's keeping myself clear so that I can show up in service to others and really be a vessel and a channel. And then there's also making sure that I am both, fully connected to the earth with my energy field and connected to the heavens, and really to be tuning in. One of my practices as in the world of attracting clients is to call in our ideal clients. And I do this thing where I, get myself really present, get myself into a prayerful state. And I ask my higher self to go and connect with the higher selves of the people who need to come to the Client Attraction Summit, as that's where we get to meet most people. So that is, one practice that I have. And I feel, and I tell this because I have a lot of friends who are just really straight up internet marketer guys, they're dudes. And they always ask, how do you get that many people to your event? And I'm I swear so much of it is prayer. I swear so much of it is this practice that I do where I'm asking the invisible beings or spirit guides or, angels, whatever you want to call them. I don't know what the proper name is for, but I just know that there's a lot of help coming from the universe. And I call in that help. So that's from an inner level of, am I doing my own work inside to be able to be a vessel of love and to be magnetic in who I'm being, and then to also ask for support from the the guides and invisible beings, as we might say. So that's the inner work. On the outer level, there is actually doing the work to clarify the message, right? Clarify our message so that when people hear about what we do, who we work with, why we are credible, that they want to listen and they want to come and be a part of that. So we're really doing it on two levels. There's kind of inner game, I talked briefly about that, but outer game, there is really having to learn some new stuff and, having to implement some new things so that our work is more attractive just on the practical level. Because people will make an emotional decision that they're interested in working with you, but they have to back it up with logic. And so we need to be using, both the yin and the yang, if I was going to think about it in terms of Chinese medicine.
Yeah, so interesting. It's such a great discussion for our group here. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about your perspective. So thank you.
Yeah, well, and Amelia, I'd be so curious, I know you must have some practices as far as inner work that you use to attract those clients as well.
Well, Sharla, for me, I think it rests in giving, really clarifying how to share what it is that I know I was born here to share. From the inside part, though, I just try to emanate that caring and the love, and I think the inner work is a big piece, really walking in your integrity, doing your work, doing the hard work, making difficult decisions about how it is that I want to show up. And it seems like people who are attracted to working with me are people who walk a hard walk too, and walk a really clear walk, and they want to boost their vibration and really walk the highest walk that they can. So
yeah,
probably certainly haven't nailed the outer the outer layer, as you were saying, around clarifying messaging, but I do believe that the vibration that we bring from the inner part of ourselves gets communicated outward in the words that we use, and I think people can feel that. So
I agree. And I think that what happens for some of us is that we don't have to have all of the outer work figured out to have it start working. There might be a time where it clicks into place and this is the thing, and suddenly it's just like easy. But there can also be that place where you're still learning and you've got some pieces in place, and every little piece matters and every little piece makes it easier. So it's a constant journey. I mean, I'm still constantly learning, and I feel like if I had a, private practice, I would easily have a multiple six-figure practice, and I would have no problem attracting clients. At the level that we're at, we are pushing our own ceilings, and we really, really want to expand our reach. And there's a level to what we've been able to do. And it's like, I still want to grow that because the work is so important.
yeah. The other thing I was just thinking was, I anchor in my creativity. And I really open to the inspiration and not really thinking about what are other people doing, but following that inner compass, which I think brings us a little bit to credibility, in terms of like really listening to who it is you are and cultivating that inner knowing so that you can bring it out and share, this is what I've done and this is what I've done. So I was just wondering, because that was the main focus of your article this month, or this issue, how is it that we can build credibility, and what is it, what does that mean to you, and why is it so important?
Yeah, it's a great question. Because, the whole issue was about like bringing credibility and validity to energy medicine. And I think it's so important. And I think at some point there just will be more and more science to back up the work that you've all been doing, and that we all know is true because we can feel it and we see the difference in our lives. When we are speaking to a potential client, there are really three things we need to communicate. And I said these earlier, but I'll repeat them. There's the who, the what, and the why. Who do we work with? What problem do we help them solve? And and why should they listen to us? Which is it's like, it sounds a little like a harsh thing to ask, like, why should they listen to us? But the reality is that people are skeptical, they're cynical, or they know a bunch of people that do what you do, right? They're those that are woo-woo, like us, right? Like, we're already woo-woo, and we don't have to be convinced of anything. We've had the effects and we know that it's true. And then there are those that are cynical. And so either way, though, if people are skeptical, cynical, and they haven't actually been exposed, then we've got to tell them why we're credible. And if they have been exposed, they probably know a whole lot of other people who do something similar to what you do. And they don't know the difference. And so they need to understand why you're credible. So the key to bringing credibility to practice is really positioning both you and your work as a great resource for the individual, whatever the individual is struggling with. So in the article, I talked about 3 steps. I'm happy to expand on any of these. So the first one is to choose a niche. And we define a niche as a specific urgent problem and the group of people you solve it for. So this covers both the who and the what, right? A specific urgent problem, that's the what, and the group of people you solve it for, that's the who. And what happens is that we are so bombarded as consumers, you know, meaning if we're going to buy anything, even if it's a service, that we're so bombarded with messages that unless something is speaking to something that we are specifically looking for support with, that we might say in our own head, even we might not even tell anybody else that we're feeling that thing. Sometimes people will say something and it like has us recognize that we're actually struggling with that. Recently, I've been having an experience of, you know, there's a lot of talk about racism right now, and I really care about this issue, and I'm still learning. I've been doing this work for a while, but there's still a lot to learn. And there's some conversations where there's some white male dominated voices, and I was feeling stifled. And I didn't even get that like some of my own trauma as an abuse survivor was playing into part where I was feeling silence, like I couldn't say anything. I didn't even get that that was in play until another woman actually said it. And it was like, oh, that's what's going on. You know, and that might lead me to a journey where I want to go do more work with that. The point being that sometimes we're saying something and our ideal client that we're talking with recognizes in their own mind that that's something they've been saying to themselves, or it brings what has been in the subconscious or unconscious to the forefront. And that's a really interesting piece. Now, on a practical level, if we think about what would somebody go in and type and search for Google, you know, are they actively searching for a solution? Certain things like headaches, digestive issues. I'm thinking about all kinds of symptoms. You know, we really think of the language of symptoms. Me coming from Chinese medicine and you all being energy medicine practitioners, people will tell you their symptoms, right? And symptoms are a gateway. They may not realize that that headache is actually from some kind of an energy block, you know, or they may not realize that, and that energy block happened from, you know, something that happened when they were 7, for example. Mm-hmm. So when you really see symptoms as a gateway, then it doesn't seem so odd to take the leap to say, I help people with this symptom. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the simplest things to do. And I know it's really hard because your heart loves the medicine. Your heart loves the process. Your heart loves the principles. And that's what you want to be talking about and teaching. I get that. And yet that's process, as opposed to like title and process when we share what we do, don't actually land for our potential client. However, when we share a specific urgent problem that we can help them with and who we specifically help with that problem, that lands and people go, oh, I get what you do and who you help. So that's step 1, is just to really get clear on who you're helping. Step 2, and I don't know if you want to add anything to this, Amelia. I know for a while you actually played with a niche. I think you tried headaches for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, I suffered from migraine headaches. And so that was actually the gateway that led me to this work. So when I was first getting started, that's what I focused on because that's what I knew the best.
Well, and an interesting thing that happened for you, and I find this process to be really fascinating. When somebody is new or they haven't quite figured out this attracting clients thing yet, I suggest going with the niche, like choosing something practical like that, like base, like in this human body, what am I dealing with, you know? Yeah. And once you have that experience and you start to get your marketing legs under you and your enrollment legs under you, and you figure out how to attract clients and have people say yes, then I find a lot of people can expand from there. They can expand who they work with and go back to something that's broader. I think a lot of times what happens is people who are newer in a particular modality, in this case, energy medicine, which is a broad category, right? But they watch people who are successful, who are marketing it with a language that's pretty broad, like I can help anybody with anything, and they think that's the way to do it. Mm-hmm. What they don't realize is that that teacher has a certain level of credibility and positioning that has them draw, and they're in front of their ideal clients all the time because of what they're doing. Right. They also don't realize that that person might have gone through a process. It might have taken them many, many years to get to the point that they're at. The long, slow road is not choosing a niche. There is an exception. I'll talk about that in a moment. But it's always an interesting thing to me about like, how do we communicate, and what's the impact of that? What effect does that actually have? Is it working or not? And I think when you're sitting there and if it's not working, then you might want to take a look at how to do things differently.
Yeah, that's so interesting. This is just a personal example of what you were talking about, but I started with headaches, and the number one reason why people have headaches is because their energy system's up at their head, and they can't find the inner resources to help balance it and ground it back down. And so fast forward 14 years, and now I'm a grounding specialist. And so we do, we do that now, and different ways. So it is really interesting the way that we can move ourselves through this work. And I think it's important for people, anybody that's watching, to realize like you're not locked into anything.
Right. There's no permanent decision, right? Yeah. Like we can change at any moment. And I think, when I look at your business and the level of success that you're having, Amelia, so much of it is who you be, and how vibrant you are, and how much love and care shines through your eyes and through your way of being. It's just so obvious that people will want to be in your presence, and they know they're going to feel loved and get the nurturing and support they need. And another piece of it on a practical level is you are in front. You have a leadership role. You're in front of a lot of people who admire you, and you have that credibility by one of the roles that you carry. And, credibility, this is the thing that trumps niche, right? So niche is, I say this is really, we recommend it for people who are just starting out. So one of the things that happens with that we can get away with, and I say it this way, we can get away with not having a niche if we have the positioning that to be able to get away with that. So in the article, I talked about step 2 is to add credibility builders, and that basically we want to share something about ourselves that sounds impressive. Because when you first meet someone, they're going to put you in a category. And whether you like it or not, I wish we could all dress however we want and, not have to, just be able to connect heart to heart wherever we go. And the reality is that most humans are walking around in their own world. We're trained to, we need like a beta interrupt, right? To have us be like, wait, what? To actually start paying attention. And we might even admire somebody in their way of being. But if we don't communicate why we're credible, people won't realize why they should consider working with us. So at Thrive, we teach 17 credibility builders. And because we don't want people to position you as a potential client, as a potential friend, a date, all kinds of things. We want them to position you as a potential mentor, as a potential healer, as a potential guide or practitioner for them. I know you might have your own way of you think about your work, but whatever that is, if you're positioned as a potential friend or as a potential client, it's not going to go that well when you're having a conversation. This also applies to anything you put on social media or anything you do, if you're running an ad, wherever. This applies everywhere. So you want to have at least one of these 17 credibility builders working with you. There's the story that I share in the articles about Jackie Simpson, who is an EMPA member. She was seeing 2 clients a week and dipping into family funds when she came to us, and just kind of keeping her practice going by dipping into family funds. And she felt guilty, but she loved her work so much that she didn't want to give it up. And then she just used 2 of these credibility builders. And she went from struggling to get people to sign up for 1 session at a time to having a full schedule within 30 days of using this. She basically did that and raised her rates and started selling packages, and everything changed for her. I think she ended up having it was a $23,000 a month, which just sounds like outrageous, right? For an energy healer. Like that's like what doctors and attorneys make. And then she had another like 16,000 in sales within the 3 weeks after that. So it's these like little tweaks can make a really, really big difference. And now she's really working deeply with the women that she wants to work with. For her, just for example, some of the credibility builders, she talked about how she'd led over 500 retreats and workshops. So for some of you, it's going to be about how long or how long you've been doing this work, how many people you've worked with, how many hours you've worked with, how many workshops you've led. That's one way to add credibility. And then she also talked about that she had taught energy medicine classes at UNLV. So actually being a teacher at a university to teach energy medicine class. Can you see how that gives credibility to her, that that people are like, wow. I mean, first, like, wow, the University of Las Vegas has energy medicine classes. If you are in that skeptical world, you know, it's like, what? So those are some examples. Another example I gave or another idea of a category you can use is, even there are stats, I'm sure there are studies that have been done on how energy medicine has been proven to relieve stress or pain or whatever your specific niche is, that you could actually, maybe you haven't gotten those results yourself, but that you could actually, talk about the studies that have been done with the medicine and how those results have come out. So you're giving credibility to the practice in that way. Like, let's say, for example, that there was a study done on pain relief with energy medicine. And I know that Healing Touch, for example, I actually first heard about Healing Touch 25 years ago when I was in college. An ex-boyfriend's mother was a Healing Touch practitioner who actually did it in the hospital. So that was the very first time I heard of it. And even, knowing that Healing Touch is the only credentialed energy medicine practice, like, that's actually, like, nurses use it in the hospital and other people use it in the hospitals. That to me that gives it credibility. And so we have to say these things. And sometimes our credibility builders are enough that you can get away without having the niche. So with Jackie, for example, she doesn't have a niche according to the way we talk about it at Thrive, but she does really well because she's able to use her positioning and use her credibility.
Makes sense. And it also keeps you from having to tell people what it is you do all the time and getting into that awful place of describing the energy field.
Oh my gosh. If you get into the process, you're going to lose people, unless somebody's really interested in studying how to do it. I think we've got to, whenever we're teaching something new, or whenever we're in a conversation with somebody that something is new to them, we have to be talking about, like, there's got to be the gateway first of, like, why do they want to listen to this? Once they express interest, then there's got to be the big picture. Like, it might be the big picture building blocks of something. Right. And then, we get into it, and they're very complex and sophisticated systems. But if we jump right into those complex and sophisticated systems and trying to explain our process, people will be lost.
Right.
Yeah.
Was there a third way?
Yeah, there is a third step. And we have a distinction here at Thrive. We call your client attraction code statement. Your client attraction code statement. And this is where we pull together the 4 major client attractors. We've talked about niche. There's having a preliminary, what do you do statement that just is really about the problem you solve and for whom. Then there is positioning that I just talked about briefly. And then there is your hero's journey story, which is your story. Like, Amelia, you would be using your own story about getting through having migraine headaches that's brought you to this work, how that shifted for you. That is a credibility builder, but it's a very specific one that has people really get that you have empathy for where they're at because you've been where they've been. And so when we put those together and we come up with a very clear and simple statement, and it can be a couple of sentences that describes what you do. And some people call it an elevator pitch. I don't like that because I feel like, I don't know, even, a lot of this old traditional sales language, I just feel it's gross. To be honest with you, I just feel like, ew, I don't want to pitch. I don't want to overcome objections. I don't want to close the sale. All of that stuff just, to me, feels like it objectifies humans. And so we change a lot of the language. So we call it a client attraction code statement. And it's like, how do I share who I help, what I help them with, and why I'm credible in, 1 or 2 sentences. So an example, when somebody says, what do you do? Like, I meet somebody, I'm out in the world and somebody says, what do you do? I might say, well, my husband and I own one of the largest holistic business training schools in the world. And we've taught over 60,000 coaches and holistic practitioners how to attract clients. I might say something like that. It's just an opening. And here's the thing about your client attraction code statement. It's the answer to the question, what do you do? When you answer that question, I know you're tempted to actually share what you do and go deep into those complex systems and processes and explain the process or share the title. Those are actually mistakes because those are likely to repel potential clients rather than attract them. Instead, what I want to invite you to do is pretend they've asked you, how do you help people? How do you help people and why are you credible? That, like, let's pretend they're asking you that. And that's the question we want to be answering. So just a quick template to get started with, and this is in the article, is, you know how blank group of people, like blank, you fill in with a group of people, have blank urgent specific problem. Well, I help them get blank solution. And then you add on a short statement with one of your credibility builders. So, you know, I was talking about Jackie earlier and her client attraction code statement. Somebody asked Jackie, what do you do? And she answers, I've been a spiritual guide and energy healer for over 20 years, and I've led more than 500 workshops and retreats, including being an instructor at UNLV. And I support women who are feeling emotionally disconnected and spiritually confused to find peace and clarity. So can you see how that would have people be much more likely to want to hire her? If there was a woman who's like in a little bit of a spiritual crisis, really struggling, and Jackie's way of being is really powerful, and she shares the who she helps, the what she helps them solve, and the reason she's credible, you can see how it's so much easier for her to get clients. I mean, she used to say, you know, I'm an energy medicine, or she used to say, I'm an energy healer and a psychic guide or something like that. And then she would be right there and she'd start pulling cords out of people, right? And, you know, at the networking event. And so, you know, she does things very differently now. She shares that. And she follows some of the other things that we teach at our Client Attraction Summit.
Wow. Well, Sharla, this has just been so illuminating. Thank you. You know, you've had so much experience, and I know that you've really seen the gifts of these teachings, you know, support so many people. So it's a real pleasure to hear about how you help people in these conversations. And I know that you have a little gift for our community. Can you share a little about that?
Yeah, I have a couple of gifts here for you. So the first one is that, and I know we didn't get to talk much about the 5 elements, but if you are curious about how the 5 elements of Chinese medicine can help you when you're talking to a potential client, how it's the energy of the conversation, I want to invite you to go pick up a free copy of our book. It's a digital copy. You just go to giftfromthrive.com/energy mag book. Energy mag book. And I imagine wherever this is posted that this link could be posted. So that's to go get a free copy of the book. Now, on the other hand of things, that, you know, we're just talking about one little piece of what it takes to attract clients. The reality is that there are 7 different keys that are really essential if you want to have a thriving practice, or you want to step into what we call being a transformational leader, where you're able to work with groups and able to support more people, and, you know, earn a great living. So briefly, I'll go through those briefly. So the first is vision. If you don't have a vision, like a crystal clear vision about what you want your business to look like, it's really, really hard to move toward it, right? Yeah. One of our spiritual mentors, Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith, says that pain pushes until vision pulls. And I would rather have you be pulled by a vision than pushed by pain into, you know, whatever it is that you want. So it's important to have that vision. As soon as we get our vision, one of the very first things that usually happens is we start getting into those negative beliefs. We have to deal with all of our beliefs about money. We have to deal with all of our guilt around money. We have to deal with, you know, all of the stuff that we have around being seen, about, you know, being visible. All of that comes up. And so we've got to continually work on those beliefs. So that's key number 2. Key number 3 is when someone asks you what you do, you've got to have that client attraction code statement so that you're very clearly communicating who you help, what you help them with, and why you are credible. Once you have that, people will be drawn to you, and then you will start a conversation. And it's a lot different having a conversation with somebody who's really leaning in, as opposed to somebody who's just like looking confused and wanting to end the conversation. It feels really good for people to want what you have. And so that's why it's so essential to create that client attraction code statement. Once you have your client attraction code statement, you get in that conversation, then it's time to get into the 5 elements of heart selling. Briefly, you know, you may be familiar: fire, earth, metal, water, wood. I imagine in the energy healing work that many of you that are listening do, that you are working with the meridians of Chinese medicine, each of those has an element, so you can kind of get the energy of each one. We've assigned a quality to the conversation. For example, the water element, which is about like diving deep below, is about being curious and about asking more questions than talking, right? Like really getting curious with your potential client. So that's just one of the elements. So, we go deeply into all 5 elements in our client attraction summit, how to use each of them so that you are aligned in your energy as you're having that conversation. And then let's say you've had a great conversation, somebody's really interested in what you have to offer, and it comes time to share your rates. So do you feel great about your rates? Do you feel so fully aligned and embodied when you share your rates that it's like there's no negative energy there? Because I will tell you this is an interesting piece here. If you do not feel 100% empowered and aligned, you could be charging too less, too little, or you could be charging too much. And if you don't feel like 100% perfectly aligned with your rates, then, your potential client is going to actually experience that as your lack of confidence in your work. So it is so essential to sometimes just have some paradigm shifts around how much you charge. And then, and I'm not saying, here's the thing, a lot of times people ask me, they're worried about being greedy, when it comes to like charging rates. Now, here's the reality. You have to take care of yourself. Like you got to put your own, oxygen mask on before you help anybody else. You have to earn a good living so that, you can make sure you can buy the food you want to, you can pay your mortgage or your rent. You can go on a vacation sometimes. You can send your kids to college. You can have the car that you want. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about, even though, we do really well, I'm not driving a Mercedes, I'm pretty down to earth in that way. I care honestly about being able to get the supplements and the health coaching I want and the quality of food that I want, and the environmental, there are things that really matter to me, the healing that I need. So, whatever your lifestyle is, whatever's important to you, that you can be able to take care of yourself so you can be at your best. Right. And then if you want to have a couple of spots where you are helping folks that normally wouldn't be able to, afford what you have to offer, that'd be great. We recently introduced a BIPOC scholarship fund, and it's a mess, and we still don't know all what we're doing, but it just feels really good to acknowledge that some people have had, not as much of an advantage as others. And how do we kind of raise that bar a little bit? And we're still finding our way, but because we know that we're taking care of our company, making sure that we can deliver the service without stressing out, then we know that we can do some of these other things too. And that's what I want for you. That was a little tangent, but basically we want to be able to charge rates. And if you aren't confident in your rates, people will sense that. If you are confident in your rates, however, and what happens at our Client Attraction Summit is about 95% of the people give themselves a raise during that event because beliefs get shifted. And then we do an exercise to help you step into charging rates that you really feel aligned with and that you can fully embody. Now, once you share your rates, you're going to get some of the I can't afford it conversation. Now, sometimes I can't afford it is really a true thing for someone. Other times it is a smokescreen for, I don't believe in myself. I'm not sure if I can do the work. I'm not sure if you can help me in the work. A whole host of things that could be going on underneath. So at our Client Attraction Summit, we actually teach 3 magic questions to help you, go deeper into that conversation in a very respectful and honoring way that actually empowers someone to be moving more toward what they want in life. And then the last key, that was key number 6. The last key is to get leverage. Now, there are 2 ways to get leverage. It's either going to happen in your marketing, like what are your client attraction efforts? Like how are you getting the message out? How are you getting the word out about your work? And then there's also leverage in how you deliver your service. Both are really important. If you just want to do one-on-one practice, you only need to get leverage in your marketing. But if you want to be doing group work and you want to be reaching more people than you can just doing one-on-one, then you need leverage in both of those ways. Now, I will tell you, as far as both marketing and delivery, being able to speak, being able to be a speaker right now, all of our speaking is done online, right? But being able to speak and offer a next step for your potential clients is one of the most extraordinary things and one of the fastest ways to get clients. And so, I would love for you to have all 7 of these keys. We go deeply into each and every one of these keys at our Client Attraction Summit. This is a 3-day live event. We've always had it in person, The last one, we just had one in May. It was online, and I just was, honestly, I didn't know how it was going to go, taking something we had led 81 times in person and creating it as an online event. And it was extraordinary. It was like, I felt like the energy was still there. I felt like I was in the room with people. I really felt like it was just an amazing experience. Come September, I think it's really, really likely that it's going to be online. I think honestly that we're not going to be having events of over 100 people, you know, through the end of 2020. You know, smaller groups, fine. But I think, and even if we are allowed, a lot of people don't want to travel right now, and it's totally understandable. So here's what we're going to do. Normally, if you go to our website at thrive-academy.com, the Client Attraction Summit is $14.97. So it's usually about $1,500. And, you know, and it's like, it's kind of compared to like a $5,000 event, because you walk away with 3 days of content that's going to help you get clients right away. People walk away and get new clients immediately the week after the event. However, because you are in the Energy Magazine community, we are going to offer you a full scholarship to come to this event. The full scholarship's our gift to you. Here's how it works. And I know that this people like can't get like, wait, what? No, really, like, this is a gift. It's a gift because of this relationship that we have with Energy Magazine as being one of the contributing writers. And how it works is this. You go, I'm going to give you a link right now. It's giftfromthrive.com/energymag. giftfromthrive.com/energymag. When you go to that page, you're going to put in your name and your email address, you know, and you can read the page to learn a little bit more. And it's going to take you to a page where you can learn more about the event. And we're going to ask you to pay $197 seat deposit. A lot of people ask, like, why would we be asking for a $197 seat deposit if it's online? Because we know that if you pay that $197 deposit and we do an audit of who's there, that you're actually going to show up. If you're making that commitment, it's very easy. We've done tests, and we've seen that when people sign up without the deposit, they're only like 35% likely to show up. And we have things we mail out, you know, to you. We need to know that you're there. There are phone calls that happen. Like, our team really prepares you. This is the event really starts like from the moment you sign up, because we have gifts for you to get you going right now. And it's a really like a whole program. So we really need to know that you're committed. And then when you show up at the event, we will, if we're online, we'll send you a check in the mail, or if we are in person, we'll give you a check. And because we have that uncertainty of online or in person, we're basically going to say this, that if you register and you're like, I will only go if it's online, and you know, you let us know that. And then if we decide to do it in person, we'll give you a refund of that deposit. Normally we don't do refunds of the deposit. Once you're in, you're committed to being there. So if you go to giftfromthrive.com/energymag, you can learn more about the event. A couple bonuses that we have here is, one is we're going to mail you a copy of our book, The Art of Attracting Clients, to get you started right away. Two, and this is something that we have a limited space for, because our gal that works in this, that works in, she's called the Thrive Summit coach. Her name is Leah Diamond, and she's amazing. She's coached people who've had TED Talks, and, you know, coached people to get their TED Talks done, and worked with actors, and has worked with hundreds and hundreds of people on their presence. And she is, she's available for a 20-minute call with the first 10 people who decide to sign up for the Client Attraction Summit. And she goes to school, and she only works with us a few hours a week, so she doesn't have a lot of time. And during this call, she's going to give you a gift to, you know, an audio based on like what your biggest challenge is right now. So if your biggest challenge is you're like, I need to get my niche, we're going to get you that niche recording. If you're like, I need to get my credibility builders, we'll get you the positioning recording, you know, so we're going to make sure that you get support with where you're at right now. And so that, you know, that's all available. You can learn more at giftfromthrive.com/energymag. And again, it'll be our, you know, we've had so many Healing Touch practitioners come in, a lot of folks from Energy Magazine. You know, I could tell story after story, like Sarah Neese, who recently had her baby. But, you know, she was telling us, like, as she was pregnant, like, you know, she's got all these people in a program, and, you know, the baby's coming, and like the money is just continues to roll in, and she's able to do her classes and her online classes and continue to live this life that she wants to live, and really set herself up to be with her baby and to do the things that are important to her. And, you know, so this is what I want for all of you. I want you to have that that level of success and that confidence in yourself to be able to attract as many clients as you want. And that all starts at the Client Attraction Summit.
Sharla, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you and to feel your generosity, which is just, you're just a wonderful person, and this work that you do is it's just exceptional. It's high level, it's high quality. So we're just so grateful to have you in our Energy Magazine family.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. I love that we get to write these practice building articles as part of it for Energy Mag. And by the way, for all of you who are here, come and say hello to me. Say hello to me in the chat if we end up having to do it online. And again, just always an honor. And thank you so much, Amelia, for the beautiful space you hold as we talk about these challenging things, right? But challenging but necessary things.
All right. Thank you, Sharla.